Today we're going to talk about the US Boiler IQ control system, including the OCP. The OCP stands for Optional Control Panel, which allows us to plug in optional cards that you can purchase for outdoor reset, aquastat, or low water cutoff. We've done a previous session on the aquastat and the low water cutoff card. You can look for those on YouTube or visit us through our website, Comfort-Calc.net. And today we're going to talk about the outdoor reset card. The outdoor reset card is a pretty powerful little card. Just to touch on the control for a second, the control allows us to do two inputs, whether it be a heat and hot water input or two heat inputs. And the outdoor reset card will allow the boiler during heating mode to reset the water temperature as the outside air temperature changes. This saves you usually between 10 and 20% depending on your system size and your radiation type. It's a pretty powerful little card. When it's first installed, we can look at some things like what's our water temperature supposed to be today and what's the air temperature outside. And then we also go through the parameters on the card, which allows us to set up what we call a heating curve. A heating curve will determine what temperature we need in the heating system at what temperature outside. So as the temperature outside changes, we slide along a heating curve and it changes our system water temperature. So let's just review the card a little bit. As you can see on the card, there on the label, it has a view mode, an error mode, so if we get any error codes, and then your set points for your outdoor reset. To access the card, it's pretty simple. You would first hit the I button on the OCP and you'll see the little display change, and we're looking for card number 1. So we would actually find C1 on a display. And then we would hit the arrow button, either up or down, doesn't matter, to access the card and be able to view the parameters. Now you'll see it changes the set point temperature to 180 and also the if we hit the I button again, we'll see the outside air temperature. OT is outside temp. So we have it simulated at about 4 or 5 degrees. We can change that temperature, and if we turn this temperature knob up over here, you can see the outside air temperature changing. If you're going to install an outdoor reset card after you install the outdoor sensor and get everything running, I would always check the air temperature to verify that it's accurate with the outside temperature. One of the main reasons for this is that you can get interference on the wire that you run between the sensor outside and the card slash boiler inside. You want to avoid paralleling line voltage wires and magnetic fields such as fluorescent lights and big screen TVs. They also make what they call a shielded cable. The shielded cable will protect you from those magnetic fields, and I would suggest always using shielded cable. This control is also going to be available shortly, I understand, as wireless, so that would help avoid those also. So you can see I changed the temperature a couple of times on this control, and if we look at the set point temperature again for what the water temperature has to be in the system, you can see now it went from 180 down to 130. So today, if the outside temperature was 56 degrees, we would be heating with 130 degree water temperature, not 180 degree water temperature, which will actually save us fuel. So that's the view. If we want to look at the parameters, how to set the parameters, we would have to access the card the same way, hit the I button, find the card location, C1 in this case, it could be any of them, and then we want to hit the arrow key to access the card. So once we've accessed all that, and then we want to go into the parameters, we would hit all 3 buttons at the same time and hold them until we get an underscore in the 3rd location on the screen. As you see, that now says DS and then the underscore. That little underscore to the right means that you have entered the access mode. So if we look at a DS, which is actually a D5, but it's domestic hot water set point. domestic hot water set point. So if we have the control set up to make domestic hot water, we would be sending 180-degree boiler water to the indirect water heater to heat up the tank. This doesn't mean the water temperature coming out of the faucet, it just means to heat up the tank. To scroll through the parameters now, we would hit the second one, and this is domestic hot water priority time. So what this means is that as we are running to make domestic hot water, it actually shuts the heat off. This is called domestic hot water priority. So we're shutting off the heat, heating the tank, sending all the heat that we're making into the tank to make it very rapidly so you don't run out of hot water. Since we are shutting the heat off while we're making hot water, if the tank takes too long to recover or the circulator fails on the tank, we don't want to be locked in locked in hot water situation and not have heat. So this time period allows the heat to come back on at that given time period. And we can change that to whatever number we want by hitting the up or down arrow keys. And then as soon as we hit the I button and go to the next parameter, it will automatically save that. So the next parameter is SS, which is set point. This is something we're going to use with Envirocom thermostats from Honeywell, which allows us in the away mode or sleep mode to lower the water temperature a little bit farther when we're making domestic, because nobody would be using it at that time period. Looking at the next parameter is called TB, and TB is boost time. Boost is a feature that will raise the water temperature by 10 degrees every time it times out. And that means that as we start heating the home and it takes too long to heat, we will raise the water temperature. This is kind of a safety net, if you will, for outdoor reset. The other side of this is, though, that if you have multiple zones, like a zone valves or multiple circulators tied in through another relay to the boiler can't differentiate one call from the next. So it could actually override outdoor reset quite often, and I normally tell people to set that to 0. You can turn it up if you want and set it to whatever number you want, but I normally turn it off. LO stands for low outdoor temp. In other words, we're going to hit 180 degrees on the coldest day, and what is that coldest day temperature? And we usually use the average low temperature for your area for this temperature. Next one we're going to look at is high outdoor air temperature, and that's normally set at whatever your thermostat setting is. Now, some people make it higher or lower. You can adjust it to suit yourself, but most of the time the setting is between 70 and 100 degrees. I know people don't set their thermostats at 100 degrees, but some people like just a little higher system water temperatures, maybe when they're running outdoor reset. So if we hit it again, this stands for low boiler. This is going to be the lowest temperature we want the boiler to be for the bottom of the curve. It doesn't mean it's actually the temperature that we go down to. It just means that we're going to set the angle of the curve. We have 180 degree high, and what do we want at low? So in this case, we're seeing 180 degree high, which we saw earlier, and now the low boiler temperature is 100, so it gives us a certain angle on our graph. High boiler temp, again, we'll see is 180, which we saw that because it's the same as a high limit setting. The minimum water temperature, US boiler refers to as LT, limited temperature. This is set, as you can see on the screen, is 130 degrees. That means if the outdoor reset is calling for something less than 130 degrees, it will still go to 130 degrees. It will ignore anything less than that. And that's basically its starting point. If I had baseboard hot water with copper tube, aluminum fin, I would probably leave it there, but if I had cast iron radiation, I would probably run this thing down to maybe 120 or 115 degrees for cast iron. The last one is Fahrenheit or Celsius. We can choose whichever we want there. So we've been through all the parameters. And if you hit the I button again, BAC stands for back. This will take us out of the parameter mode where we can adjust the parameters and put us back to the view mode. And then again, this is where we can see the water temperature set point today. You can see it's at 115 with the temperature we have now. And of course we can change that temperature by changing the outside air temperature. And our outside air temperature is now 37 where it was 56 before. So that's the overview of the outdoor reset card.